All right, now in this video we're going to talk about shapes in Photoshop, using vector shapes to create interesting designs. Now this is an effect I saw in it was actually a movie title sequence, and was an interesting use of shapes, but we're also going to add the element of layer styles to it to give it a more interesting look. So let's start with building the shapes using the vector shapes here inside Photoshop. So I'm going to go into my toolbar, and we're going to go ahead and grab the rounded rectangular tool here, and let's just go ahead and set our fill settings here. I'm going to set the fill for the shape to white, and let's go ahead and set the stroke color to none. So let's just be a white box with an oval or with a rounded corner there. Now the radius I've got set for my rounded rectangular box is 50 pixels up here in the options bar right there. And I'm just going to go and draw out a rectangular shape like that. And I've also made sure that it draws out as a shape layer and not a path, as you can see. So just select shape up here in the tool mode. So I created that box. Now what I want to do is add another box to this, but subtract from that shape. So I'm going to hold down the Option key and draw out another box, and it will go ahead and subtract from that existing shape I have there. So I'm actually going to reposition this right here, and I want it to overlap, almost creating this kind of stylized kind of shape here, that kind of knocking out one whole side of it right there. Maybe something like that. That looks pretty good. So I've got that shape cutting out the other shape. Now what I need to do here is commit this subtraction so that I can be able to see the effect I'm going to apply next. So it's going to go under that menu there, or into the Pathfinder menu here, and then you'll see where it says Combine Shapes and Subtract. We're going to go down here to choose Merge Shape Components, and that basically cuts away all the invisible shape areas and just leaves it to just the shape that we created there. So now I'm going to scale this down a little bit. It's still a vector shape. We don't have the overlapping shapes anymore to edit, but it is still a vector shape layer. And I'm going to position it right here on this side of the image. And what I'm going to do now is kind of a step and repeat effect. Now, step and repeat is really kind of another unsung hero in Photoshop. It does some really interesting things once you know how the feature works and you go around and play with it in different ways, get some interesting results. So with the path selected here, I'm going to go ahead and activate the step and repeat by pressing Option-Command-T. Now when I do that, the transform box appears and allows me to edit the shape. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is grab the center anchor point here and just drag this way over here. I'm going to hold the Shift key down so it stays level. I'm going to drag it way outside the image area, or outside the shape area, on the right side here, right about there. Maybe not quite that far. Let's put it right about here. Now also, I'm going to drag the shape over a little bit, and we're dragging a duplicate, mind you, because the original is going to stay there. So I'm going to drag that over, and I'm going to hold down Option and just scale this up a little bit. And again, scale this way a little bit. I'm doing this disproportionately here. But now, while I still have it in that transform box, I'm going to right click on it, or control click, and then go down here to this menu and choose Perspective. Now I'm going to hold down the Option key and just drag this down right about here. Well, you don't need to hold down the Option. That's just habit. But I'm going to drag this down so I get a little perspective on that box shape there, like that. And maybe increase this end over here. So there we go. So I've invoked the step and repeat, and then I move the anchor point outside the image, and then we've resized the object now. Now I'm just going to press Enter to commit that change. Now, I'm going to hold down Shift, Option, Command, and then I'm going to press T like 2 or 3 more times. So 1, 2, 3. And you can see what it's doing is it's repeating that transformation each time. A little bit more each time. So if it transformed it, 10%, it's going to do another 10%, another 10%, but it's doing it to the previous repeat. That's why it looks like it's squashing and getting smaller and smaller each time. But what it's created is this kind of almost dimensional kind of framework here. And it's all, again, still on its own shape layer. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and apply an effect to this. Let's actually add we'll add the layer mask effect here shortly. But let's go ahead and create a mirror image of this. I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Command key and hit C. So Command C, and that's going to copy it. And then Command V, I'm going to paste that graphic in place. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put it in free transform and just go down here and choose Flip Horizontal. And it flips that duplicate. And I'm just going to move it over, and then we're basically just mirror flipping that duplicate that we created there. So I'll do that again. Let's just make sure. And the reason I'm doing it this way is I want to make sure it stays on its own on that same shape layer. So again, let's select all the shapes, go to Edit and Copy. This is another way to do it. And then go to Edit again and choose Paste, and it's pasted it right in place on top of the existing shape there. So, and we'll just go into the Edit menu, go to Transform Path and choose Flip Horizontal. And then just grab it. Oop. Let's do that one more time there. So again, we'll just go to Transform Path, Flip Horizontal, and then just move it over to the other side there. And now we've got this really kind of symmetrical framework that we have here. So I'm going to make that a little bit wider apart. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a new shape in the middle here. And it's going to be a completely new shape on a new layer. Let's go ahead and make sure we got it on new layer. And we'll set the fill to black. And, oh, change my existing shape there. Let's make sure that shape is unselected when we do it. In fact, let's go ahead and draw the box out that we're going to make here. Let's go ahead and put that out right there. And let's go ahead and change the fill to black, and we'll add the stroke this time. We'll set it to white, and let's make it a little bit bigger, about a 10 pixel blur there. I think it looks pretty good. And let's go ahead and center it. I'm just going to do a Command A and select all, and then just center this in the middle there. And we will do the same with our shapes below. I'm going to select that layer and select all the shapes, and once again, horizontal center. Oh, don't want to do that. We don't want to select the shapes, but just the layer, and then just center it as a whole there. There we go. There we go. Okay. So there I have my shape that's above it. It's kind of framing it in there, and then we've got that symmetrical element on the layer below. Now I'm going to go and select that with that layer selected and add an outer glow layer style here. So let's go ahead and do, let's do kind of a pinkish glow on the outside here. I'm going to set my blend mode to hard light. Let's increase the size and the opacity here. There we go. And there it is. Okay. So we're getting that. Now I'm going to add an inner glow to this as well. Let's give that more of a yellow glow there, kind of a yellow goldish glow. Again, I'm going to set my blend mode to hard light, and let's increase the opacity. So that's giving me a really interesting glow effect there. Now what I want to do is I'm going to add a layer mask to that shape layer. And it's going to give us a little bit of a fade. Now because I've got the layer style applied and you can see the glow on it, it's really going to become visible whenever I do this. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my gradient tool, same one I've used before, foreground to transparent, and just come in from each side and draw the gradient. And that's going to give me a rather interesting fade and color effect on those shapes. And that's because of the way the layer mask is interacting with that shape and how it's redrawing the layer style on there. Now, I want to go ahead and apply that same layer style on that layer above. So instead of going through all the motions again, I'm just going to hold down the Option key and then grab that effects icon on that layer and just drag it to that layer above, and it's going to apply that effect on there. Now, clearly I need to go ahead and adjust the color effect here. So let's go ahead and adjust that outer glow to something a little darker. Help kind of match the background there. Let's bring that opacity down a little bit. A little more in the red, yeah, something a little hotter. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. And then all I have to do is just go ahead and add some text. So let's go ahead and do, the word inspire. And then just center that in that box there. But there we have using shapes. Now again, we went in there, took the rounded rectangular, cut out the shape on it, and then we were able to do the step and repeat. And that's the key here, is that step and repeat feature, is go in there and experiment with that. Not just being able to, create repeats of objects that are the same size and scale, but remember, you can alter that scale and positioning and then create this interesting repeat effect depending on which direction you take it and where you position that anchor point. And this is just the results as playing with some graphic elements, but imagine if you tried it with some photographic elements or even entire photos altogether. So some really interesting things you can do with step and repeat here inside Photoshop.